We are back with Sri Savita, who just read a sample of The Deed with the Duke. And I have had the pleasure of reading that already. And one of the things that stood out to me hearing you read it again was the beautiful setup of Robin Hood's Bay as they're walking in. And we didn't get too much about the town in this scene, but it's this kind of idyllic place that you have created for your characters to enjoy. So can you tell me about how you went about ideating and then creating the world of Robin Hood's Bay?
So I'm planning to sort of write future books about Roz's siblings, and I kind of wanted it to be a twist on that classic small town idea of people coming from a big city and reestablishing, their lives in that sort of quirky, fun, comforting small town environment, but that's different for them. There's still some adjustment there. And so that's why it's set away from London. I knew I wanted to have a summer festival. And the other thing about this particular location is that, it is a real place, and Robin Hood's Bay gets its name for not the storybook figure, which there's not an obvious connection there, but a lot of the research that I found showed that there wasn't really a reason for why they chose that name because, the actual storybook characters associated with, other places, Nottingham, Sherwood, and things like that. But it was a haven for smugglers. And I have some other books that are sort of associated with some of that smuggling, for lack of a better word, industry. And so this was a way that I thought I'd kind of create this in-world connection. And I knew that I kind of wanted it to be this really picturesque kind of coastal place. But I like the idea of there being like an element of mischief or something that you can't really trust about a place that does look too charming, which is exactly what Roz thinks of immediately. And I think for both characters, one of the internal things for them is kind of learning to trust the things that are really good that are in front of them and like getting over or trying to really, actively work against some of the things that are in their past that maybe make them a little bit more suspicious or not as trusting. And so I really liked the backdrop of this place. It does seem really perfect. It allows that closeness and community, but it also tests some of their vulnerabilities.
Mm. I didn't realize that Robin Hood's Bay was a real place.
Yeah, it's a real place. And they do have a summer festival. And, it's more dancing and like music and things like that. But there are elements of that that I sort of wanted to use. But yes, yeah, it's a real place.
So what was your research process for learning more about that place specifically? And then like where's your line of accuracy versus your own version
Yeah.
of it?
So there's definitely more of my own version of it in terms of the people that are there and the businesses. The one that's featured a lot in this book is the inn, the Bay Blossom Inn. And so that's sort of modeled off a different inn that isn't quite in Robin Hood's Bay, but is still on that coast. And I think it was the Bay Horse Inn. So I kind of based it off of, seeing some examples of what these older inns look like. They're still used today as pubs or, places for the locals and tourists to visit alike. And then I just read some, touristy websites and articles about Robin Hood's Bay, and that's how I learned about some of the role that that place had in smuggling and what was going on with, everybody in the town kind of making it a group effort to help these smuggling endeavors because people could more directly profit from those kinds of things. And so, yeah, I read some things about the place. I really wanted to kind of put a little bit of my own spin in terms of the businesses and things like that. But the description, when we're seeing the alleys and the crooked cottages and stuff in the intro that I just kind of read, that's all based off of looking at pictures of what the place looks like. And so I think in appearance and in sort of setting up the scene and things like that, the descriptions are pretty, I tried my best to be factual to what I've seen of the place. And then some of the other elements in terms of how I'm bringing about the businesses and things like that, my version of the festival, those are things that I've created.
That's so interesting.